The Invocation of Hecate, from the poem Orpheus by Aleister Crowley. O triple form of darkness, sombre splendor, thou moon unseen of men, thou huntress dread, thou crowned demon of the crownless dead, O breasts of blood too bitter and too tender, unseen of gentle spring, let me the offering bring to thy shrine sepulchre glittering. I slay the swart beast, I bestow the bloom sown in the dusk and gathered in the gloom under the waning moon, at midnight hardly lighting the east. And the black lamb from the black ew's dead womb I bring, and stir the slow infernal tune fit for thy chosen priest. Here, where the band of ocean breaks the road black-trodden, deeply stooping to the abyss, I shall salute thee, with a nameless kiss pronounced toward the uttermost abode of thy supreme desire. I shall illume the fire, whence thy styges shall obey the lyre, whence thy lemurs shall gather and spring round, girdling me with the sad funereal ground, with faces turned back, my face averted. I shall consummate that awful act of worship, O renowned fear upon earth, and fear in hell, and fear in the sky, beyond fate. I hear the whining of thy wolves, I hear the howling of the hounds about thy form, who comest in the terror of thy storm, and night falls faster ere thine eyes appear glittering through the mist, a face of woman unkissed save by the dead, whose love is taken ere they wist. Thee I call, O dire one, O divine, I, the sole mortal, seek thy deadly shrine. Pour the dark stream of blood, a sleepy and reluctant river, even as thou drawest with thine eyes on mine, to me across the senseless, bewildering flood that holds my soul forever. The night falls back. The shadows give place. The threefold form appears in the black as a direful face half seen in the storm. I worship, I praise the wonderful ways where thy smitten rays of darkness sunder. The hand is lifted, the gate is rifted, the sound is as a thunder. She comes to the summons, her face as a woman's, her feet as a fear's. Turn back on her path for a sign of wrath. She appears. She appears. It's Halloween. This is Halloween. I'm going to read you a little something. I probably read it before in the past year and a half or so, but I thought it would be appropriate also today. Horror takes its time. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. These facts few psychologists will dispute, and their admitted truth must establish for all time the genuineness and dignity of the weirdly horrible tale as a literary form. H.P. Lovecraft. my sweet summer child," old Nan said quietly, "what do you know of fear?" "Fear is for the winter, my little lord, when the snows fall 100 feet deep and the ice wind comes howling out of the north. Fear is for the long night, when the sun hides its face for years at a time, and little children are born and live and die all in darkness, while the dire wolves grow gaunt and hungry, and the White Walkers move through the woods." George R.R. Martin, A Game of Thrones. Horror is the literature of the damned, a demon child art form conceived in the fertile depths of subconscious hell, gestated in the lonely womb of fear and despair, brought to troubled birth by the midwife of tortured obsessions, and reared to grotesque maturity in the prison asylum of a terrified imagination. Horror, to be truly horror, must be more than a frightening story. It must be a cloistered odyssey, a claustrophobic dance with madness. Above all, horror must be a traumatic and soul-mutating spiritual experience, sublime, elegant, and terrible. Sounds disturbing, doesn't it? I hope so. Horror should be disturbing. But at first glance, classic horror seldom presents itself as a product of a disturbed mind. On the contrary, some of the best, excuse me while I turn the page of this book, some of the best works of the genre are introduced by a narrator who seems sane and rational as you or I. An ordinary mind which at the moment is merely grappling with extraordinary psychological issues which we all can more or less identify. But beware, dear reader. Your gentle empathy with the story's protagonist is a subtle poison that within a breathtakingly few paragraphs disrobes your soul and lulls you into a poppied sleep. Naked and vulnerable, and now uncertain of your own sanity, horror draws you irresistibly into the mind of the main character of a nightmare. For me, or anyone else who stubbornly refuses to grow up completely, literature doesn't get any better than that. I turned 9 years old in July of 1957 and was enduring my second melancholy summer of exile in the uncivilized wilderness of Nebraska. I realize the word exile probably sounds melodramatic, but I was a very melodramatic child in 1957. Nebraska was for me an alien planet, cruel and hostile. I hadn't been born in Nebraska. I'd been kidnapped by my own parents and taken there against my will. I was a Southern California boy and thoroughly enjoyed my first 7 years in that hip and sunny fairyland where movies were made, where rock and roll was evolving, and the dreams and industries of the space age made us all feel like citizens of a bright and gleaming future. The family's move to Nebraska in 1955 was in my eyes a doleful exodus back to the dark ages, a trail of tears from a 20th century beach paradise to a 19th century prairie hell. Powerless to change my circumstances, I pouted and steeped in a bitter broth of self-absorbed discontentment. I hated Nebraska I hated Nebraskans. I hated the way they talked. I hated the way they laughed about butchering animals. I hated the way they preached about their wrathful God, a God who hated Negroes and Chinese, even though there wasn't a Negro or a Chinese person within 100 miles of our provincial town. A God who would condemn little boys to the flames of eternal torment just for the sin of not believing in a God who hated Negroes and Chinese. Most of all, I hated the way Nebraskans, young and old, actually took smug pride in their own lack of sophistication. They wore their ingenuousness like a badge of honor and rudely ridiculed and bullied anyone who did not proudly clothe themselves with the same coarse robe of premeditated ignorance. I admit this must sound terribly unkind. Hate is a strong and unhealthy passion, especially for a 9-year-old boy. But hate springs from fear, real or imagined, and in my young mind there was much to fear in Nebraska. Even as a youngster, I sensed a palpable darkness, a prairie madness, a nameless evil brooding just underneath the surface of the bib overalls and the cotton house dresses, a slumbering beast just waiting to be awakened by the kiss of alcohol or jealousy or greed or lust, an evil that is ever mindful that the nearest policeman is many miles, perhaps hours away. A black and primitive wickedness that takes poisonous root in the solitary psyche of those who toil alone in the earth from dawn to dusk, season after season, year after year, an evil that smothers in the heart all breath of human compassion or empathy for the pain and terror they inflict daily on the helpless beasts they breed for slaughter, or the children they breed for labor and war. A twisted and perverse evil that feeds on guilt and self-loathing. An evil that incubates in the deafening silence of sweltering summer nights or the perpetual darkness of winter, and hideously hatches like a basilisk egg into monstrous acts of rape, incest, and murder, and suicide. The houses themselves are possessed of a dark subconscious secret. Indeed, they're built upon these secrets. Unlike the sunny and uninsulated bungalows of Southern California, Nebraska houses hide their own dungeons. Large as the footprint of the house itself, these cinder block chambers, the natives call them basements, offer a modicum of insulation from the frozen sod of winter and an area of damp coolness from the blistering heat of summer. Basements also provide residents a dark hole in the ground in which to cower from the whirling death clouds called tornadoes, tangible wind devils that regularly strike down from pus-green clouds and sweep across the earth, bringing grotesque death and destruction to anything and anyone in their path. Yes, there was much for a young man in Nebraska to fear. I was lonely, depressed, and morose. One sweltering, desperately bored, I did something unthinkable for a 9-year-old boy in Nebraska. I found something to read. Happy Halloween, everyone. Blessed Samhain, and or whatever you want to call it. I will see you tomorrow. This has been a wild Sunday school. I'll see you tomorrow. Continue to be good.